What's going on, y'all? Welcome to episode 33, 32, 33.
33.
God damn, it's getting up there. The Speak Up Sports Podcast with Cass, Christian, Shad. What's going on, fellas?
Same as always, man.
It's good, y'all.
Doing great.
Yeah.
What's good? We're officially 10 days before the NFL draft. We have another draft going on as we speak right now with the WNBA draft. With Caitlin Clark, obviously heavily expected to go number one to the Indiana Fever. So great. Obviously, coming from the women's college basketball season, leading into the draft, it's as hype as it possibly can be, probably in a very long time, for women's professional basketball. So want to shout her out as well. But we officially also ended the NBA season on Sunday. We are fully set in terms of the top 6 seeds on both sides, and fully set on who will be in the play-in. Exciting week coming up. By the time we're done into the first round, we're going to be right into the NFL draft. So we'll get into all of that. But as we usually do, we will go ahead and start off with the NFL side of things and start off with our AFC East preview for this year. Tough division. You had the Buffalo Bills at the top. Obviously, they had a miraculous comeback on the season. Miami obviously had a great season as well. Tough season from the New York Jets, which, probably we should be used to. But, obviously we all know what happened on the first game of the season. And then finally, we'll go ahead and start off with the New England Patriots, who, probably had the most. Do we want to say the biggest loss this offseason? Obviously we know Stephon Diggs left, Christian Wilkins, but the legend Bill Belichick obviously retired, and it's ushering in a new era into New England. In terms of, obviously we know they have a top pick in the draft, a top 3 pick in the draft. Where do you guys think they're going with the draft? How do you guys think that the start of the new era with Gerard Mayo as head coach will go for them? I feel like that's kind of the sentiment everybody got by the Patriots. I don't know.
Yeah, because at this point, it's pretty much you just compile players. You just get guys. You know what I'm saying? Of course, they are sitting at 3, so number one, especially after trading Matt Jones. Number one is you got to get a quarterback in there. Of course, you did get Jacoby Brissett, which he is very serviceable. But you don't know if you'll be this high again. Bailey Zappi, yeah. You don't know if you'll be this high next year. To select, one of the top 3 quarterbacks. So I think you should take your shot while you can. And is who that may be is, of course, out of their hands for the most part. I know you don't know what Washington's going to do, if they're going to go with Drake May or Jaden Daniels. So you're kind of like they're at their mercy, I guess you could say, to find your quarterback of the future, which is not necessarily ideal, but that's just the hand they've been dealt. I think it should still go with the quarterback because of the talent in this draft. But other than that, they need receivers. We all know that. Especially bringing the quarterback in there. Even if they find a way to trade up a little bit, maybe back into the first round to get a receiver or something like that, like a Brian Thomas Jr. or A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy. There's a difference maker on the outside. That can go a long way for this franchise, and especially to pair up with your young quarterback. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with them. But they honestly could use upgrades at every position. So yeah.
We'll say you, Chris.
It's interesting because, out of every coaching vacancy, they're the only ones who actually had a plan to go forward. They already had it in mind that they was going to hire Gerard Mayo as the head coach. So, I wouldn't say necessarily, but maybe the coach is already set there. So, as a rookie coach, you might as well go ahead and get him a rookie quarterback. So that's where I see them going. Like Cass said, your options are limited, as in you probably won't be able to trade up to get the top quarterback you might perceive in a draft, but they still have their chance to get one of the best that seems to come out of this draft. So, good but weird position at the same time, because their roster definitely needs an upgrade outside the quarterback. Their roster definitely can use an upgrade. So it's one of those rookie coach, rookie quarterback. can't expect too much out of this season just to see where they're going to go forward.
Yeah.
So I wanna ask y'all because a lot of what they did this offseason is really they kind of re-signed a lot of their players. They brought back Josh Uche, obviously he was a free agent. Kyle Duggar, he just re-signed with them recently. Um, you know, they brought in KJ Osborne over from the Vikings, who Kirk Cousins did say was a very
better than
very
what he
underrated, and better than what a lot of people think. Obviously,
Mhm.
bringing in Jacoby Brissett, he's used to, he was obviously drafted by New England, and we all think that's probably going to be a good pickup. Re-signing, Mike O, the offensive lineman that everybody thought was going to be, probably one of the best offensive linemen on the free agent market. Do you guys think that they actually? Let me frame this better. Because we've heard all the noise in terms of, Bill Belichick slipping, maybe he's not as great as a coach, without Tom Brady, blase, all that extra stuff, finally getting out of the Josh McDaniels and the kind of the retread of coaches that they've kind of continue to bring in, cycle between the Bill O'Briens and stuff like that. Do you think that with the coaching change, maybe they're not necessarily going to need that influx of talent like we think, and maybe that if even a culture change in terms of, because we've heard the stuff about people saying it's all negative and you have to do it the Patriot way. Do you think that maybe like that change could make players play better, or is that overblown?
It is. I think it's a little overblown. I think you still need some guys in there. I do want to give Bill credit for, especially on that defensive side, what they were able to do, especially down the stretch, without Christian Gonzalez, without Matthew Judon. Like, those are the pillars of your defense, and you still were able to find a way to stay in games because of your defense. So I think like we'll see. Honestly, I don't know. We'll see how much of that was Bill, how much of that is the culture, and how much Mayo kind of picked up from that, which I don't expect too much of a drop off on that side. But as far as like asset gathering, I think it should come mainly on that offensive side, because we saw them get in lose games, where they don't score a touchdown at all, or like lose games. It's like you're setting your defense up at that point, especially in the long haul, especially in that division. So that's why I think they should still, like, players could play better for sure. But you still got, and I think they're doing it in a good way. Like, you're not tying up too much of money, like, into the future. I think they brought back, Jacoby's on a 1-year deal, I think. I forgot what KJ signed for, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't that long. Was it?
I don't know if they've even officially dropped the details.
Of it, yeah. So you're not tying yourself, long term with these guys. So definitely want to bring some youth in to kind of build. That's why.
I'm in agreement with that. I think most of the issues I have is obviously on the offensive side of the ball. I still think they need playmakers at receiver. Now, do they benefit from playing with a good coach that they can, I guess, mesh with? Yeah, sure. That's very true. But I still think they lack in that department of skill set as far as receiver go. Everywhere else, I think running back, they was okay last year. It wasn't like world beaters, but they're serviceable, and so was their defense. Their defense kept them in a game, and
they had your boy Zeke, the running back.
But I still think they need to upgrade. Now, I ain't gonna say they just have a bottom tier roster in the NFL, because I'm not saying that. But offensively, they definitely upgrade.
So how do y'all feel about?
I don't think it was
What were you saying?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, how do you feel about in terms of them sticking with Gerard Mayo? How do you think? What's the leash that you guys think that he gets? Quote unquote, because he is coming from kind of the same ilk, or the same
tutelage.
What's the word? Yeah, tutelage of Bill Belichick. However you want to put it. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that he's a coach that will get a longer leash? Obviously, we know Robert Kraft is, he's put quite the resume as an owner over the past, 3 decades. He's known to be one of the best, if not the best owner in the league. Do you guys think that he's actually going to get that leash that normally coaches get, the 3-4 years? Or do you think that if things don't turn around next year, like he could be, because at the end of the day, while he is breaking barriers, being he's the first black quarterback or first black head coach, um, in for the New England Patriots, kind of breaking
Yeah.
that barriers or what we think of how Boston is, and the history there. Do you think that there could be a short leash there, or do you think that that's something that he's going to be? It's going to be like all the rest of the other coaches.
I don't think he's gonna get a short leash. I think that is the main reason why he was hired. I think it's comfortability, and so he know him, and then he's been in the organization forever, played there, and he coached there. I think it's one of the things where they gotta understand that. I don't think he has. I don't think he has a short leash at all. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I think the nature of how all this went down, with that being in his contract, to kind of take over once Bill is gone. I don't think you do that if you're going to go like, oh, if you don't win in 2 years, and they're. I mean, this is not a team starting for championships. You know what I mean? Like, of course, you want to put out, a winning team, and but I think right now it's just providing hope to the fan base, because you're not starving for championships. That is not it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, really, the goal for him is just to be competitive, try to make the playoffs, and that should be his goal for the next couple of years. And I think that could happen. At least be competitive part. So I think he'll get that 3-4 years for sure. I don't see why he wouldn't.
I do. One of the things that you mentioned is like them putting that aspect of him, becoming the next in line behind Bill, in this contract. I find that interesting because, bringing it back, to personally, obviously we all remember Josh McDaniels was originally hired as the Colts head coach before Frank Reich. And the thought process was that he went back in part because he didn't want to move his family, but because he was supposed to be the next in line there in New England. And obviously we know he went to the Raiders, ended up getting fired, and now he's, I think, probably still looking for a job. I'm kind of wondering what happened there. Nobody's really kind of expanded on that. Like, why did that,
Nice.
where did it change? Like, what did Rob Mayo do that to go and show? Because, I mean, no disrespect to Josh McDaniels, between his 2 head coach stints and then his one very, very short coach stint with the Indianapolis Colts, the results aren't great. So I'm wondering what happened in that building that kind of gave the confidence that Rob Mayo should be the guy.
Maybe it's a Kraft thing, I mean, and Kraft, like you said, he is a great owner. You can tell they already have a good relationship, him, Kraft and Mayo. So I think it's mainly from that, just like conversation that they've had throughout these past however many years, decades. Just as far as his aligning visions, pretty much. So I think it is interesting. I do want to know more about the whole situation for sure, because they really was just like, oh, okay, he had in his contract, and then boom, that's it.
It's gonna be. I mean, this is definitely and one more person that I want to add in, because I did speak a lot about Bill Belichick, and this is somebody that's probably going to go. It's not going to be talked about too much, but Matthew Slater also retiring this year. Hall of Fame, probably going to be a Hall of Fame special teamer. Probably, in a lot of people's regards, the best special teamer ever. So want to shout him out for having a great career. That's not something a lot of people talk about. Making it, I think he played like, close to 15, 16, 17 years as a special teamer, being a leader in that locker room, well respected in the locker room, I think is really important. And that's something that, his leadership, you obviously lose Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, Julian Edelman, and now Matthew Slater. I mean, if you want to throw Rob Gronkowski in there too, losing those, all of that back to back. I mean, it's going to be a tough rebuild. This is we talk so much about rebuilds and teams having, obviously when they have bad seasons. This is like truly a rebuild where it's 20 plus years of one thing. So. I'm really excited to see. I am sad, shout out my boy Mac Jones. I am sad that you're not getting that opportunity, but you fucked it up. Moving on to the Jets. We talked about in the previous episode that the Bears are kind of the team of the offseason. And I would honestly say that the Jets are probably the second, to me personally, the most intriguing team, because there's so much unknown with Aaron Rodgers. Everybody's trying to write him off, even though he is a 4-time MVP. I was watching Shady and James Jones get into a heated argument of basically like, saying Aaron Rodgers ain't this, that, and the third, and his time has passed. in terms of their, obviously we know that they had kind of a rough season. We don't need to get into all the silliness that happened last season after Aaron Rodgers got hurt. But kind of a, you know, after all the foolishness last year and last offseason of kind of bringing in the Aaron Rodgers guys, solid offseason this year. In my opinion, bringing in Tyrod Taylor as a backup quarterback. Obviously, Zach Wilson's probably going to be out of there probably next week during the draft. Mike Williams, we talked about that a little bit. Morgan Moses, we talked about that a little bit. We obviously talked about Hassan Reddick coming over. Javon Kinlaw from San Fran coming over as well. A lot of just there's a mixture. Big pieces, Tyron Smith coming in, and a lot of small depth pieces as well. In terms of what their outlook is, what they should do in the first round, and I do have an interesting question for y'all after y'all answer. How do y'all think? What you guys think they should do in the first round, and what their outlook is moving forward?
What's their draft pick?
10.
I would say, and we talked about it kind of before, because they're in a position where they can truly just go all in and try to get the most NFL ready guy at 10. They can trade back for assets for the future, which is probably the best bet for somebody. It depends on how the draft falls, of course, and who's there at 10. But if you can snag some future 2025 picks, that might be the best way to go. You don't know how long Aaron's going to play for you guys. But yeah, we talked about, like, there's a possibility that they could go Brock Bowers, which I wouldn't necessarily do. But there's definitely a possibility they could go offensive tackle and just go for depth behind the two older 1-year deal linemen that you've signed, tackles that you signed. And that's kind of where I would lean. Well, first I would lean towards trading back if they can. But if not, definitely getting one of those tackles and kind of going for it. Because I don't really know. Like, you could go edge, but then you just brought in and, you haven't signed them yet to a contract. So you might, they could go edge.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
And
they
Hassan
could go
Reddick,
edge.
for people listening.
Yeah, Hassan Reddick, yeah. So you could go edge at 10. You have pretty much your maybe possibly the second best edge, if not the first one at that spot. So it's a possibility. So edge or tackle, I will go for them in the first round.
For me, I will go on offensive side of the ball. I give him another playmaker. I mean, why not? At this point, but I will say I'm happy. I'm happy for what I've seen from them this offseason in general, because they could have easily just, rest on their laurels. Like, well, if we had Aaron Rodgers, our defense played good, so we could just run it straight back, and that shit don't always work like that. So I'm glad that they're actually taking steps into trying to bolster up their team. So, hey, I wouldn't mind getting him another receiver. Fuck it.
Depends on who they're like at 10, because if you wait to 10, unless Rome drops, you're technically, common knowledge reaching for a receiver at 10. But it's possible.
Yeah. We talk about reaches. It's reaches based on media.
Based on media, for sure. For sure. We don't know how the teams
we don't know
rank.
what the teams and stuff like that. So I want people to keep that in mind when we do say, like, reach or steal and stuff like that, because post draft we're gonna be, XYZ was a steal. They got him in the 4th round. Whole time he's gonna be trash and never play it down. So just keep that in mind. But I think they should go tackle for sure. Because both Morgan Moses, both Tyron Smith are older. Tyron Smith, obviously, the Cowboys, I don't want to say gave up on him, but let him go in part due to his injury history and stuff like that. So that is a factor. And, let's be honest, we saw a lot of in it. I don't know if anybody ever came out specifically with the numbers and what it looks like, but we saw a lot of injuries on that MetLife turf. So, it can happen, including the biggest injury of the season to start Monday Night Football off with Aaron Rodgers and the team we're talking about. But, a lot of people have been talking about the demise of Aaron Rodgers, man. They missed the playoffs, obviously, with the Packers the year before. And I feel like a lot of people didn't, and that's not because of, probably some of it has to do with some of the off-field stuff and his Pat McAfee interviews and, him being himself, for him, but to others, it's like, you're being a whack job or whatever the hell else they want to call him. But do you guys think that Aaron Rodgers has fallen off? Do you think that we could see MVP Aaron Rodgers, or do you think it's the guy that, everybody's talking about that just isn't that good anymore, and he's just going to be a middling quarterback? What do you think is more likely?
I think it's more likely we get a top 10 quarterback.
Top 10?
Top 10, not top 5, but definitely top 10.
I agree with that. I think it's more likely you see a very good Aaron Rodgers than a quarterback that's falling off.
Yeah,
I mean, of course, like there was a lot of hype last offseason. Of course, a lot of that had to do with Hard Knocks, and all the publicity around the changing teams and all that. But I think the hype was warranted. Like, I think, you saw them as a team saw, you saw like he still got it. Like, he's still Aaron Rodgers. He's still that guy, and like he's one of the most talented players to ever grace that position. Yeah, exactly. So I can never say, I think he can play as long as he really wants to at this point, health, permitting. So
I honestly feel like he's the first. We see it often in the NFL or the NBA, on the NBA side, and we've talked about it a little bit, where everything is about rings. I feel like he's kind of the first quarterback, and I'd have to really, really think about it, but just off the top of my head, I feel like he's the first quarterback that has really been a part of the rings conversation, as opposed, because we all know that Dan Marino didn't win a Super Bowl, but nobody ever is like necessarily holding that over his head. When they talk about Dan Marino, they're like, yo, like, if Dan Marino, people will be like, if Dan Marino's playing right now, he'd have 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns or whatever they say. But like Aaron Rodgers, it feels like, and like I said, I know a lot of it is probably going to have to do with, once again, his off-field stuff. But it's like people are just like, down. I mean, it's like a lot of disrespect for somebody that has the second most MVPs in the history of the NFL. Like 4 MVPs. Tom Brady doesn't have 4 MVPs. Like, we don't know if Patrick Mahomes is going to hit 4 MVPs. Like, and I know it's a regular season award, but like folks just act like that man is a bum. So I'm excited. Do you guys? So I got one question about contender, and then my surprise question for y'all. So do y'all think that they should be considered a contender, or do they have the potential to be a contender next year
for the Super Bowl? Or
contender for Super Bowl? Right? He ain't doing everybody's a playoff contender today.
Everybody's not a playoff contender.
Okay. You say that, but shit, Houston was the second worst team in the league last year.
That's true. That's true. The
Colts were the fourth, so
that's gonna be very tough, man. And the AFC to even make it to the Super Bowl, it's gonna be very tough. I think it's possible, but a lot will be on the hands of that head coach, Robert Saleh, and what he can show. Because we talked about it in our past episodes as well. Like, he's kind of on a hot seat here as well. I mean, we don't know exactly what Aaron wants exactly in a head coach, but he's definitely on a hot seat there. So he has to show that he can lead this team into a decent record in a long playoff run, which a lot of people don't have faith that he can do. So at this point, I'm going to say no, not contending for a Super Bowl. I wouldn't put them up there. Could be wrong though.
Say you, Chris.
I say yes. And that's totally because their defense played lights out last year, and I think their defense is one of the top in the league. And a lot of those games they were in, they just had some of the worst quarterback play we ever seen in our lives. So, I mean, if I go with what I said with Aaron Rodgers, top 10, playing like a top 10 quarterback, yeah, they definitely can compete for a Super Bowl.
And I agree with that. And, even though, especially with Mike, I think Mike Williams is going to be a huge pickup for them.
Yeah.
And I could see them going receiver in the draft just because Mike Williams is on a short-term deal. Garrett Wilson, he's going to be coming up for a deal here soon in the next 2 years. So I could see them trying to, stay cheap at the position. But here's my question. Chris just brought it up. We saw the worst quarterback play or some of the worst quarterback play last year, obviously with the Jets. It's not been talked about very much at all. Should they be a contender for a team to possibly trade up or take a quarterback? Because we talked about it a lot over the past few weeks. A lot of the media is talking about 5-6 quarterbacks. It's most likely, we can probably write it in pen. It's most likely not going to be 5 quarterbacks. It's most likely not going to be 4 quarterbacks back to back to back. It's never happened before. It might not even be 3 quarterbacks back to back to back. Do you guys think that they should be a team to be considered to trade up and get a quarterback?
I don't see it happening. I can see them taking a quarterback. I don't know about trading up. I mean, they're also doing their due diligence on all these quarterbacks as well, especially the latter ones. I think I saw today that they're working out Jordan Travis, quarterback from Florida, FSU, who got injured. So I mean, they're definitely doing their due diligence, and they know they have to start looking long term at this quarterback position. But I don't think trading up is necessarily beneficial at this time. I don't see why.
Especially when you got Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback, you know how he gonna feel. You trade up to get a quarterback. That means you expect him to get up out of here.
But I don't know about that, because obviously he came to a team that had the number 2 overall draft pick at quarterback. So he had to expect there was some type of.
And that's what he was doing a little bit last year too. He kept telling, I don't know how much of it was just like for show, but he was saying all the right things to Zach, saying, this is what you need to do when you take this over and all this other stuff. So he's definitely, like, you saw it on TV at least, the kind of mentorship role that we didn't see much, in Green Bay. So
yeah,
it's possible, but.
Which we say we didn't see it much, but Jordan Love came out,
and he's balling, so maybe he did. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but they definitely didn't show it. You know what I mean? Like,
and also I feel like some of the games where Aaron Rodgers came back and was kind of in the fold, and the whole team was kind of hyped, that those were the best Jordan or Zach Wilson games as well. So, that's something that I'm interested to see, because I do think that's a bigger possibility than people are talking about. But with that being said, as you alluded to earlier, with Robert Saleh there, maybe not, just because he's on the hot seat. He's like, I'm trying to win as many games as possible, not build for the future.
Yeah, if you're going to change coaches, yeah.
So, and they might not even be comfortable with him developing a quarterback either. So,
fair.
We're happy.
That is fair.
But moving to Tua and the Miami Dolphins, I think all of us kind of expect at some point Tua is going to sign a contract this year. Pretty good season from them. Obviously, they made the playoffs. They obviously got waxed in the first round to the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, just keeping it a bean. But as good of a season as they had, it's kind of tough going into the next season, because they did lose Christian Wilkins. Obviously, Chubb and my boy Jalen Phillips, they're still on the team, but they had major injuries towards the end of last season. So it's going to be, some time before they get back. Xavier Howard's now out of there. They had a defensive coordinator change. A lot of changes there. How do you guys feel about what their outlook is moving forward, and where they should go in the draft? And they're bottom of the first round.
Yeah. This team was interesting to me, because like you could tell they made a lot of cash saving moves to give Tua that contract. But I don't necessarily I don't see a clear path for this team to be at the top of their division next year. I am on the track that, and I know this is not popular opinion, but I don't like paying Tua the contract that he's about to get, possibly. I know it's hard to find a quarterback, as one as good as Tua is, but I don't know. I don't know about this team, to be honest with you. There's a lot they have to do on the defensive side, and especially in the draft. I would say they will lean. You got to lean defense. Of course, they could shock everybody. It might not be a shock, but they can go receiver. Like that wouldn't surprise me at all. But I think you lean defense. I think you lean corner. I think that'd be a smart move. Of course, like with Chubb out, maybe you want to go edge. Maybe you want to go deep, an interior defensive lineman if Johnny Newton or Byron Murphy makes it there, which I doubt they do, but you never know. But I think they definitely lean defensive side in the draft. But it's a lot of work to do for this squad, and I mean, I don't have them high up in the rankings as of right now. As far as like outlook going to next season, I'll say that.
About you, Chris?
I don't know, man. This team probably one of the most confusing teams in the NFL because I mean, you dedicated, all your resources to have this high power offense. And yes, it was high powered at times, but when you played against competition, it just didn't look good. It didn't look like what you brought in was supposed to be the difference maker. So I don't know who that technically is on. Is that on the quarterback? Is that on Mike McDaniels? I mean, and if they're about to give him a contract, then Mike McDaniels on a hot seat this year. They give him Tua a contract.
You think so?
Yes, because if they come, bro, you cannot do what you just did. Like I just said, when they played against competition, when they played against comp, they did not look good. They did not look good at all.
Against the Cowboys, they look good.
They did not look good at all. They were just running the fuck out the ball though. But other than that, like they really didn't look. In my opinion, they didn't look good. So I'm saying if you're giving to a contract, that means you're tied to him. I mean, that means you're saying, okay, we believe into it, we want to keep him. But if you come out this same year and against comp, you fold. That's on the coach. The coach.
See, I do like the pickups that they made. I mean, they brought in tight end one, Jonnu Smith.
Definitely tight end one.
They did bring some help in on the edge with Shaq Barrett. Replaced Xavier Howard with Kendall Fuller. Brought in Jordan Poyer as well. So they made some pretty good signings. Jordan Brooks came over from Seattle. But I think we're all on the same page where it kind of is Tua. Nobody, they're a good all around team, and obviously we didn't talk about it at the top of the show, but in Philly, Devontae Smith just signed his contract, so you can probably expect Jalen Waddle is going to sign an extension very similar to that as well. So they have those two receivers set for Tua, but I mean, it's all about Tua. It's all about what progression he takes. Now, last year was we talked about how they didn't look necessarily great against comp, but they did have those scoring 70 points. They did have great moments, blowing people out and stuff like that. But it was also in terms of Tua staying healthy the entire season, that was big for them as well.
Yeah.
So another year where he's fully healthy. Another year in the system, Jalen Waddle, hopefully he can stay fully healthy because even though he's played, he's been nicked, it's seemingly every year. And definitely last year it seemed like every game he was nicked and coming back and trying to tough it out. But, it all lies on Tua. And I agree with you where it's like I don't necessarily, same way I felt about Dak Prescott, I don't want to pay him, if I'm ownership, I don't want to pay him top of the line. But I mean, if he can get the Kirk Cousins contract or a little above that, I don't see why not. He's number one in damn near everything statistically. So it's gonna be interesting. What do y'all? So Chris thinks that Mike could possibly be on the hot seat. How do y'all feel about some of the conversation that went on socials throughout the year where parallel to Sean McVay and the Rams, he gets his Matt Stafford. Who do you guys see first? Because obviously the contract, they can eventually get off that or something. Who is that quarterback that y'all could see to be an upgrade where that would make sense?
Good question, honestly.
Because they were trying to get Deshaun Watson for so long. So
yeah, and kind of looking back, like Kirk would have been nice for them. You know what I mean? Like. It's very interesting. As far as I can't really see it though. I can't really see any quarterback that's possibly available that's in the NFL currently. Available that Mike could really, try to go get. I don't really see it, but
what about the team I just mentioned, Dallas?
Talking about Dak, yeah. You mentioned that a few weeks ago too. I think. about him possibly being a Mike McDaniel guy. I don't think you want to do that either. To be honest with you, it's like I'm no shade at Dak, but I don't think it's a huge upgrade over Tua going to get Dak, and I think you
Do you
still
think
got a
he's an
team.
upgrade?
I think it is an upgrade. I don't think it's large. I don't think it's worth it, in my opinion, for what Dak would possibly want, in my opinion. But I mean, as far as veteran quarterbacks or quarterbacks in the NFL currently, I don't see it. Which is bad because, like, then if you're, if you don't see anybody out there, in the NFL currently, and you really don't want to take a chance on a rookie, you're kind of stuck. You're kind of stuck with what you got, and you kind of just got to roll with it. Kind of be creative, but I don't know.
What about
That
you,
two at
Chris?
60 million scares me. Like, that's just not. Ugh.
Do you think Dak's an upgrade?
Shit, he really did his upgrade. I was going to say they really should have went and got your boy. That's what they should have did. Should have got them. Should have got Matt.
Matt
Matt would
Jones.
go over there and eat.
See, they should have got Matt.
Matt would go over there and go crazy with Tariq. Hey, Jalen Waddle. I mean, hey,
Jalen.
he already know what it's like.
But vets, like Cass said, I mean, most of the vets are literally like, you're not gonna hinge your franchise on them like a Matt Stafford, in my opinion. Most of the vets left.
It's one more guy that I'm really interested to see, because in terms of a contract, by this point, it would probably be something that would be, tradable. And his team could possibly be in a flux. I don't know.
Derek Carr?
What? Oh boy, I'm about to say, boy, get the fuck out.
No disrespect to Derek Carr, but in my opinion, he's not better than Tua. And I honestly kind of feel like he kind of fits Miami. Kyler.
Oh. I don't know about that one either.
Is Kyler?
I see the thought process, and Kyler.
Hey, Kyler might go crazy in Miami with that roster.
Kyler can put it out there now. Kyler can put it out there for them boys.
Imagine Kyler, what's up, boy? HN, Mostert, Tariq, Waddle.
Yeah.
Hey, definitely, boy.
That's a different element to that offense that you don't have with Tua, for sure. Definitely different element.
Because and they've been talking about it this year. Tua started to lose a little weight, so he can move around a little bit more like he was doing at the beginning of his career. I'm just saying, Kyler go over there and go crazy, and I feel like he's like perfect Miami quarterback. Like,
what would it take for Arizona to move off of him, though? Like what kind of, like, how much turmoil needs to happen? Because I think they really like Kyler over there. Seems like
I wouldn't say they don't like Kyler, and I don't necessarily think that the Rams didn't like Jared Goff either. I mean, obviously Jared Goff took them to a Super Bowl. Like I said, going back to the parallels between the two, obviously we know Mike McDaniel, worked with Sean McVay and all that. But obviously they're in a position where, and people talking about it already now, like, I think his name is Monty Austin for their GM. He obviously put together a great trade back last year with getting an extra first round pick for Will Anderson, and even traded back up in the first round and got himself a tackle and stuff like that. They've got a lot of picks. They could be another trade back scenario here. If next year, technically year 2 with Gannon, but year 1 fully with Kyler, if they're still, because it's still possible they could be the 4th in the division.
Yeah.
Do we, is Kyler worth Tua and a first or maybe 2 firsts or something like that, or is it just Tua and a first? Like, is that I don't know. I can see it. I'll go over there and eat. I mean, and that's not to say I like Tua. I just don't. There's limitations there.
I don't like Tua. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think he's a good quarterback, but I would not pick him. I would not put him on my team personally. But
hey, situations matter. We just seen it all last year, so you never know. not to say a humbling for Tua, because it seems like he's been humbled damn near every year of his career with Flores and injuries and stuff like that. But I just think it would be interesting to see. And like I said, the possibility of the offense with all that speed, I mean, it would be a sight to see, and I definitely think Mike would draw some stuff up. But moving to the class of the division, and probably been the most talked about team over the past couple weeks, with Stephon Diggs leaving the Buffalo Bills finally and officially. But they've had a lot of departures. This has kind of been, their season where they're retooling. Obviously, we know Stephon Diggs, that's the biggest name, but possibly losing Micah Hyde because he's still free agent. So, maybe Jordan Porter going over to the rival. Trey White obviously going over to the Rams. Dane Jackson. I mean, it's a lot of teams. Jordan Phillips, Leonard Floyd going to the 49ers, which I think is going to be a huge pick as well. Mitch Morse going to Jacksonville. Gabe Davis going to Jacksonville. I mean, it's been a lot of hits. They've lost 4 receivers last year. Deontay Hardy, he just signed a couple days ago. It's a lot of hits, but I mean, they bring in Curtis Samuel, bring back AJ Epinesa. They restructured Von Miller's contract to make it better on them. Obviously, they re-signed Taylor Rapp, Chris Boyd, Mike Edwards. They bring him in, re-signed Taron Johnson, one of the best slot corners in the league. For Buffalo, we talked about it a lot last week. What do you guys think their outlook is? We probably don't even need to do the draft conversation because it's probably going to be receiver. We can just probably put that in pen.
It needs to be receiver.
I guess a better question is, do you think that they sit and be patient, or do you think that they go and make that big trade up?
I think they need to sit, honestly.
Why?
I mean, because the Florida offense of how they went last year, towards the end of the season, it was more tailored towards, trying to, run the ball and make I guess more play action passing. Yes, you do need a receiver, but I don't think you have to force it to get the biggest name out there in order for their offense to be successful, because we've seen how the offense is starting to work towards the end of the year. So you still got Josh Allen. Hey, you can win some games. So I don't think you have to necessarily make that big jump.
I'm kind of with you, but a part of me does want to see them kind of pull off a trade for that Brandon Ayuk or a T. Higgins. I think they're in a perfect spot in the first round where they can wait and see how it kind of falls, and if you're sitting there at, what are they at, 28 or something like that? If you're sitting there, wherever they're, I think it's at 28, and you see Brian Thomas Jr. off the board, you see your other high, receivers off the board, I think it's very possible, and I think it's very smart to just pull the trigger and say, yo, like, here, you can have our first, send him over. Of course, we did see T. Higgins come out and say that he's like expecting to play for the Bengals and still next season. And then, the Brandon Ayuk shit, that got denied, his little trade request. But I think both of them could still definitely get traded. So I think that's a good move for Buffalo, in my opinion. Still.
Would you prefer them trade for a Brandon Ayuk? I mean, we can probably say T. Higgins would probably not get traded there just because
probably not.
It's within the conference rival XYZ. Do you think that they should do a Brandon Ayuk as opposed to a rookie receiver or a couple rookie receivers?
I think so. I think with the way their receiver room is set up now, and then them wanting to compete still, I think you want to bring in a seasoned route runner like Brandon Ayuk. I think that would be your best bet. Of course, like, you could go cheap, go get a late round receiver and hope you strike gold, but you never know, you know what I mean? And Josh can make anybody probably look better than what they are, but I'm just picturing like the Brandon Ayuk route running with Josh Allen. I think that's a good match, personally. So what do you fall on it?
No, I agree. I would rather get a veteran than at least for Josh Allen. I'd rather get a veteran than trade up for a rookie. If it's for the right price, if it ain't no crazy shit.
If it's for the right price, and we got to see, like, because you can't make a move like this until you see how the draft is going to, pretty much how the draft is going to shake out. So we'll see what their board really looks like.
Yeah, and that's kind of where, I mean, we'll see how the draft falls. If it's because, once again, based on what we think and what we're hearing in the media and stuff like that, we think that Romo Dunze, Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison are going to go in the top 10. It could very well end up where, Marvin Harrison drops a little bit, Malik Neighbors doesn't go to the teens, Odunze doesn't go to the teens, and stuff like that. Especially because, like I said, there's people that are expecting a run on quarterbacks. This is supposed to be a great tackle class. People are going to expect a run on tackles. Then, right now everybody's pitting the Falcons as the team to have the first defensive player off the board, which is at 8. So at some point there's going to be a run on defensive players just in general, let alone a specific position group. So there's always the possibility that these guys are there. So I mean, it would obviously depend on how it falls. Secondly, I would like to, have an idea of what Brandon Ayuk is trying to sign for. Not to say that Brandon Ayuk's not a good receiver, or a great receiver, but is he trying to get like the Tariq Hill contract where he's the number one receiver, paid receiver, or is he trying to be more in line with like, Michael Pittman, where he's, I think Pitt right now is like maybe 8-9, 7-8-9, somewhere around there. And he might, because of accolades, maybe get a little bit more than Pitt. But if he's in that top 5, top 6 range, okay, then maybe. But if he's trying to be top 1,
I don't know. I don't feel good about that one either. Yeah, that's facts.
No disrespect to him. Obviously, once again, it's just we saw what happened when the Chiefs traded away the top paid receiver and how quickly they were able to, make things work. Once again, that's Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. So, not trying to say that McDermott is Andy Reid and stuff like that, but I don't know. It would depend on how it falls. But I would love to see, an A.D. Mitchell or a Brian Thomas go there as well. And like you said, Josh Allen is going to make all those guys, whoever falls there, look better. Now that we've kind of gone through the teams, who do you guys think should be the favorite moving forward?
Great
That's
question.
tough. That's tough.
I think this division is a lot closer than what it seems. You know what I mean? And a lot closer than historically what it's been over the last couple of years. I want to lean Buffalo, but a part of me kind of wants to put the Jets up there. I know I had them in the playoffs last year, but I like the makeup of the team. Whether it comes together or not, we'll see. But I do like the makeup of the team, and I liked it last year. That's why I had them making the playoffs. I think it's highly possible that they could mess around and win this division this year, Chris. I think it's possible.
I mean, I kind of agree with that. I would give it to Jets solely because they're gaining probably the best asset that you could probably gain as a quarterback, and I like their moves. I mean, it's close, like you said, Kaz. I mean, at least out of the 3, like Miami, Jets and Bills, it could go either way. I mean, their division game is gonna be crazy.
I think it's gonna be close, man. I really think it's gonna be close.
Yeah, I can see either one of those 3. And Patriots, I ain't gonna say they win the division, but they're gonna be competitive. But I'm gonna give a slight edge to the Jets.
Now I'm gonna have to rock with Buffalo.
Slight.
Buffalo.
I'm gonna rock with Buffalo with the Jets being in second. It kind of sounds, Chris did say that he could see all the top 3 teams, but like I said, it seems like we're all kind of like there's a little bit of hesitation with Tua. So there's a obvious ceiling when you have hesitation about quarterback. But last year, including myself, not necessarily in terms of writing them completely off, but I was big on let's get Sean McDermott out of there. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I was definitely especially as we started getting more and more into the season. After the Trayvon Diggs thing, I was huge on let's get Stephon the fuck out of there.
Yep.
Love Stephon, think he's a great player, but when your brother started doing shit like that, you gotta go.
Can't have all that.
Can't have it.
Yeah.
So once again, Dallas, you might have to get rid of that boy Trayvon because he's definitely looking at. I know he got to be looking at that. If he's gonna talk crazy about Josh, Ain't no way, ain't no fucking way he's looking at Dak and being like, "Oh yeah, you don't want."
Didn't he already call him a B in training camp?
I mean, hey, we not going. Hey,
You
that's
calling
training
your
camp.
starting quarterback
That's
like
training
that?
camp. That's training camp. We seen Cam Newton
Nah,
scrapping with Josh Norman in training camp. Hey, Cam Newton was the MVP, so shit.
Yeah, but I do wonder how that season would have shook out though if Trayvon was out there playing, and out there on the field, like feeling it, especially after that playoff loss.
But I mean, hey, you seen both Michael Parsons' family, Dak's family too,
that's
came out and
true.
said get him out of there, and CD's family came out. So, but last year everybody and their mama tried to write off the Buffalo Bills by midseason. The Miami Dolphins were flying high, and in the end, they still could not do it. I just don't see they. That shows a lot about not only Sean McDermott that they were able to get the 2 seed. It shows a lot about Josh Allen. They changing offensive coordinator midseason. It's taking his star receiver really out, like kind of pretty much out of the mix, like the entire back half of the season. It shows a lot of, and on top of that, all the injuries they had, because they will be getting Milano back. They will be getting guys back healthy. Von Miller, it's another season removed from him having his injury as well. Maybe he becomes a little bit more effective. So I just think that Buffalo, they're well run. They've been drafting well for the most part. I just got to go with Buffalo. I got to go with the best quarterback in the division. So that's But like I said, it's as we sit today. Next week, following next week when the draft comes, and we see those steals and those reaches and stuff like that, I might have a different opinion on it. But
can't argue with it.
Yeah, facts. I mean, it's all good. It's all good teams. Like I said, we said it was a tough division. So I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm excited to see Aaron Rodgers. So I mean, he can flip anything. Like I said, 4-time MVP. So, but moving on to the NBA, man. Man, what a season we had. Kinda. We got to kinda. We obviously got the first iteration of the in-season tournament with the Lakers winning. Got to see the emergence of Therese Halliburton coming off the Team USA, which we'll get into a little bit their roster here in a little bit. But got to see the even more emergence of Anthony Edwards, Victor Wembanyama, Rookie of the Year possibly, maybe even Defensive Player of the Year. Chet Holmgren, after all the talk about him playing 82 straight, 82 full games. The breakout of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and then throughout the entirety of the season, the dominance of the Boston Celtics, the maybe ineptitude of the Milwaukee Bucks. It's been, while the storylines haven't been, huge and popping, like you would think, it has still been an interesting season. And now we're here in the playoffs, like what everybody looks forward to in basketball, especially. Let's go ahead and get into a little bit of these predictions and what the plan will look like and what the first round will look like. We can go ahead and bring the picks back. So, with that being said, tomorrow we get our first games. The first game of the plan. You get the big dog, you get the king, and you get the former who we thought was going to be that guy in Zion Williamson with the Lakers and the Pelicans. Who do you guys got in the first game?
Because the word,
Winning,
talk
you get
has been,
in.
Yeah, talk has been, the Lakers have owned the Pelicans. But I think in a situation like this, like all that past, like all your season records, they matter, but they're not really. You know what I mean? Especially you talk about just a 1 game thing, because we just saw it a few weeks ago with the tournament, the college tournament. So you know what? I'm gonna go Pelicans in this one. I'm gonna go home team. It's tough for me to pick them because of what we just saw a couple of days, like yesterday. It was complete like domination by the Lakers, pretty much. But I think we see Zion kind of step up and want it in this. And then same on the flip side, we see BI. I think BI has a huge game tomorrow to kind of close it out to in the end. But we'll see how it goes. I'm gonna go Pelicans in this first one. What y'all think?
I think that would be the quote unquote X factor because Bi hasn't been playing for a minute. He's been
Of
out,
course, he came back against the Lakers.
right? But
Right.
so I think if they have a shot to win, it'll be because of Bi. But I'm gonna go with the Lakers. They've been a little bit more consistent as of late, and so I think Anthony Davis is gonna have a huge game. They're gonna win it. They're gonna squeak it out though. It ain't gonna be no blowout like yesterday.
I don't think it'll be a blowout either, but I also have to go with the Lakers. Even though LeBron is in year 100 and he's been playing for forever, to beat LeBron, it's you've always needed a great team and somebody to be able to match. Even at this point in his career, to this point, to my point earlier in the season when we did our predictions, I talked about why I thought the Lakers would be in the championship. And part of the reason was because last year they made it to the Western Conference Finals with LeBron on one foot, and now he's fully healthy. He's rolling. The Lakers are rolling. They only lost one game over the past I think like 7 games, including and it was the game that AD missed. AD did say he was going to play, so I'm rocking with the Lakers. I think the Pelicans make it close, and this is the first real test that we get to see Zion in the playoffs or playoff like atmosphere. So I am excited for that, but I do think that the Lakers go ahead and squeak out a win with let's say, as Cass said, Brandon Ingram closing it out. I think Bron closes it out. Led the league in fourth quarter points this year. So I'm going to go ahead and go rock with LeBron and the Lakers.
Yeah, and congratulations for the Lakers. You win and get to face Denver in the first round.
Which I do want to ask all about that here in a second.
Yo.
But let's get into to the next game, the second game of the night. Probably the most important game of any of the playing games in reality. Maybe not on surface level, but the implications of it at the depending on the result makes it very huge. Warriors versus Kings. Great playoff series last year. It was kind of the Kings' breakout year last year. Obviously, breakout series, especially for De'Aaron Fox. That ended with Steph Curry going for 50 in Game 7. How do you guys see this one shaking out? And this is really a win and go home. I mean, lose and go home. So this is the last game for one of those teams. Who do you guys think that are pulling it out?
Hey, Cass.
Yep.
Like
that bean.
Like that bean.
Yeah, man, they're gonna put these boys out their misery, man. And it's gonna be tough because if they lose, it's gotta be some shaking up with the Warriors organization in general. But I do think the Kings will win this game.
I'm gonna go with the Warriors. I think the Kings, of course, they're missing two huge pieces in Kevin Huerter and the
Monk.
likely 6th man of the year, Malik Monk. Odds wise. And I think that's going to come up here. I mean, this is not the same Kings team that we saw, battle the Warriors last season. Of course, they got the firepower. De'Aaron Fox is a dog. He can compete with anybody. But I think the Warriors actually pull this one out. On the road, should be tough. I think they pull it out.
It's tough, but I'm
tough.
also rocking with the Kings. This is it's the Warriors have been fighting. It's been a tough season. It's been a tough 2 seasons. I think this is
put them out their misery.
This is the game that they kind of put them out their misery. I think really the Kings, if Steph didn't explode last year, this was really last year. The Kings should have been the team to put them out of their misery, and it should have been a rebuild for them this year.
Yeah.
In reality, and we kind of saw that play out throughout the entirety of the season. I think even though the Kings, have been kind of struggling to end the season, I think they finally get that key dub against the Warriors. And we go into offseason of questions. CP3 retired. Is Clay retired? Clay doesn't say that. There's a lot of people that think that Clay is going to have a lot of suitors, which I do think he will. But I could also see Clay being the type of guy to be like, look, I did my thing.
Clay's the type that would retire at 35.
I don't want to go play for anybody else. And,
yeah.
he's also been a California kid his whole life. So I could see Clay. Is Clay going to retire? Is Draymond going to retire? Because Draymond's value, he'll tell anybody that I ask he's one of the most valuable players in the league. But his value outside of Golden State, especially with not having the same shooting there, is very minimalized, in my opinion, even though he's a high IQ player. But I do think that has to be something that's in consideration. And even Steph, because if the two of them retire, I could see them all going out in the same. And we saw Steph crying on the court. I do think that in fitting end, we will also get a Draymond ejection. In a fitting end, we will also get a Draymond ejection.
You can't. I would not be surprised.
So
the real question is it two text or flagrant two?
Probably one of those ball kickers again.
One of them back-to-back text. Yeah, you never know.
Stepping on a nigga chest or something. But moving over to the East, we talked about it last week, more so with the West in terms of them possibly getting the KD, LeBron, Steph in the play-in. The East, even though the West still got LeBron, and we can kind of throw Zion in there as well, but LeBron and Steph again. The East got Jimmy Butler, playoff Jimmy, and they got the reigning MVP in Joel Embiid in the 7 and 8, and then they got some teams that have had some injuries. Just a tough season, just trying to get it over with all due respect, and the Hawks and the Bulls. But to start for the first game, we got the Heat versus the 76ers. Who do you guys have?
I'm gonna go 76ers. I think Joel. It's for one game I'm picking Joel. All right, and I know it's tough because he's been since he's been back, he's had a couple of scares, and it's oh my god, can this guy stay on the court? And they're so good with him on the court. They're still good without him, honestly. Decent, but Maxey is able to really get in his groove, get in his role with Joel on the court when he is on the court. So and I think that happens in this game. I like this Heat stuff. We talked about it before. We could be wrong, but I'm not going for the Heat. I cannot get behind this team. I saw Jimmy Butler's interview today where he's talking about nobody wants to see us. Da da da. I think yeah. I think it runs out here. I think they lose to the Sixers.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be that close, to be honest with you.
What say you, Chris?
Yeah, I think the Sixers are gonna win this game. They just better than Miami. Miami ain't good. They trash. But I also want them to be the AC, to be honest with you, because I want to play them.
You want to play Miami?
Yes, XID Demons. That's for another podcast, but I want them. Oh okay. God. So yeah, Sixers is gonna win though.
So we're all on the 76ers.
Are we?
Not so fast. Like you said, Joel Embiid, he's a great player, MVP. Over the past couple games that he's played, he has had a couple injury scares. He obviously didn't play the last game. But your first playoff matchup is against Bam. And Bam ain't just obviously he's bigger than him, but Bam's a great defender, and I do think that he makes it tough on him. And, as we see in the playoffs, is where you don't get those same calls. It's not going to be Joel 20 from 20, 19 for 20 at the free throw line. So I do think it gets kind of tough for them. And we do get our random Jimmy Butler game where he goes for 30 and he talks shit just for them to get swept in the first round. But I do think, Jimmy always comes up to play, whether it's a big scoring night or, it's just a game where, one of those games where he's just making key play, key stop, key pass, key steal. So I do think that, and, Joel has some reverence, a lot of reverence for Jimmy Butler and who he is. I think Jimmy knows exactly how, to play, to give tips to Bam. Obviously they played. It's been some time. I mean, it's not like he's just playing it for the first time. But, I do think, and then with Eric Spoelstra, the coaching job that he does, I do think that they get this one game, which I'm a little nervous about because they should have lost both games last year, and then, obviously they went on a little run. But that's who I'm rocking with. I'm gonna go with the Heat. A little nervous about it, but I'm going with the Heat and rocking with them. I think it's a Bam game.
I think the next game would be that game. I think they got a little room to play with in this game, so I think they will play with it. They're that type of team. Back against the wall, 8-9 or 8-10 matchup for the 8 seed. I think that's when they really.
We'll see.
But we'll see.
We'll see. Moving to the 9-10 game. We got the Hawks versus the Bulls.
Yeah, this trash.
Hawks versus the Bulls. It's been a tough season for both teams. Obviously, we know about Lonzo and him not playing, so that's kind of hurt everything to have to do with the Bulls over the past couple seasons. So they're just trying to get along, trying to get it out there. Zach LaVine's obviously been hurt as well. End of the year, bro. You know what I'm saying? So Hawks, high hopes at the beginning of the season. Season didn't go the way they wanted to. Trae Young obviously gets hurt as well for a portion of the season. What do you guys coming out of this game, Hawks versus Bulls?
Right now, Chris, because the Hawks got y'all number this year. That's what they told me. Bruh. So they make it to that 8 seed.
They gonna lose to the Heat. That's my point. They gonna lose to the Heat.
They might lose to the
on some dumb shit.
We'll see.
I'm gonna go Hawks too. I think Bulls at this point just want their season to be over. They're playing like it. Of course, we saw whatever the shit that was last week when they had the fast break. Who was it? Torrey Craig,
I think,
or whoever,
and
Andre Drummond. That's just goofy shit. Just silly. They're pushing Billy Donovan out. He's talks to go back to college. It's just that type of season for these guys, and I don't see them. You don't want to talk about putting out of misery. Like, this is a team that needs to be put out of misery for sure. So I got the Hawks in this one.
This is another tough one because I have a lot of respect for DeMar DeRozan. He's kind of gotten, especially since the big trade for Kawhi and him going to San Antonio. I feel like DeMar DeRozan has kind of just been like pushed out of the way in terms of a real deal player in this league, and people just don't really talk about him that much. Obviously, they were a really great team with him when he first got there with Zach and Lonzo, and until the injuries started to hit. I just think that we get a DeMar DeRozan game. I just think this is between DeMar and Kobe White. I think DeMar ends up closing the game out. We get a good back and forth game between the two, but the Hawks go into the offseason with a lot of questions. Obviously, we were already going with a lot of questions, but this is going to probably be the offseason where we're really having the serious Trae Young going to, it's going to be the Lakers. Most people say.
Lakers.
Trae Young going somewhere type conversations, that's going to dominate. I think between that and the 76ers and Joel Embiid, I think those are the two people that are going to dominate the offseason in terms of movement. And obviously, people have talked about Damian Lillard, but we'll see how that season goes. But I got the Bulls pulling this one out. So with that being said, that leaves me with the Pelicans versus the Kings in the West, and the 76ers versus the Bulls. Cass, that leaves you with Lakers and what you have, Lakers Warriors. Chris, you got Pelicans Kings. And then on the East, y'all both got the same thing, Hawks versus the Heat.
Yeah.
So if in the last slot for me, if we're going Pelicans versus Kings, get out of there. We get the Zion game that we want. We get to see Zion. We get to see the young Bulls. Zion versus OKC, and them boys. And then Brandon Ingram also, he gets to play. I think it'll take him a couple games for him to get his legs back under him.
That'd be a good
And
matchup, though, for sure.
yeah,
I think I got the same thing as far as the two people, so I am going with the Pelicans also to beat the Kings.
Pelicans. What about you, Cass?
I got Lakers Warriors. So for that final 8 seed, I'll go Lakers. And I think this is a matchup that they want as well. Not that they're like, of course, we'll talk about it too, but not that they're ducking Nuggets or anything like that. But obviously, they would rather play the Thunder. Let's not be crazy about it. So I think it's a matchup that they want, and they take advantage, get in, try to end it quick and get some rest in the first round, especially because it seems like AD's back is spazzing up a little bit, and LeBron always needs rest. So this is the route.
So in the East, I had, like I said, I had the 76ers versus the Bulls. Got the 76ers pulling that one out in a close game that the Bulls are winning most of it. I think the 76ers end up pulling it out. But you guys had the Heat and Hawks. So who are you guys going with?
I'm gonna go Hawks. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the Hawks pull it out. Now it's probably not likely. Again, this is like, every time I bet against the Heat, I get it wrong. But I'm gonna go Hawks in this one. I think they pull it out somehow. That's just me throwing that away. I just don't want to bet the Heat.
I'm gonna go with the Heat. I think that's the game Jimmy Butler gonna have his game.
We'll get into the exercising demons next week. But for everybody to go over the top 6 seeds on both sides, and then we can get into the 4-5, 3-6 matchups and who we got for that one. But on the West side, OKC ended up pulling it out and becoming the 1 seed, with the Nuggets being the 2. And we got the Timberwolves at 3, with the Clippers at 4, Mavs at 5, and Suns at 6. So we've got the Clippers and Mavericks first round officially, in Timberwolves Suns first round officially, and we don't know obviously with the other 2 games. But on the East side, we got the Celtics. Obviously, we knew from the jump they were going to be the number 1 seed. They got the best record in the league by a pretty significant margin.
By a mile.
It's like 7-8 games. 2, we got the Knicks. 3, the Bucks. The Cavs pulled it out at 4, staying where they are. 5, we've got the Magic. And then 6, we've got the Pacers. So with the 4-5 matchup, we've got the Cavaliers versus Orlando, and Bucks versus Pacers. So to start, let's go ahead and go over to the West side, or we can start with the East side of things since we're already here. In terms of the 4-5 matchup, some people are saying it's a bit of a snoozer in terms of it, but Cavaliers versus Magic. Who do you guys got in that 4-5 series in how many games?
I don't think that's a snoozer, only because the Magic are pretty young, I should say, and so they're an interesting squad. I mean, they can score. I think that's an interesting matchup. But I'll probably give it to the Cavs, probably 6.
So I actually, even though I said this was gonna, some people think this is a snoozer, I actually think as we have it right now in the East, at least, I think, and what we predict what they'll kind of look like, especially depending on where the 76ers land, because some people are probably going to pick the 76ers to be that 7 seed. I actually think this will probably be the best series in terms of closeness, but the Cavs are going to win in 5. A lot of talk have been about the Cavs and how they've looked towards the end of the season. They haven't necessarily, including myself as a Cavs fan, I haven't given them the grace that they've been the most injured team outside of maybe Memphis in the entire league, and that includes with Joel being out. Especially, everybody's given the 76ers and all these other teams grace, and Donovan Mitchell's been out a lot of the past few games, and then their best 2 perimeter defenders have also been out. They're starting to get healthy. I think the Magic, we might see Paolo go for a big game in game 1 and the Magic sneak 1, and then the Cavs gentlemen sweep them away. So as for the Bucks and Pacers in the 3-6 series, kind of an interesting series. Obviously, with Glenn over there. The Bucks, the Bucks didn't end up. What were they, like 30-13 when they got him or something like
Yeah.
that? And they only won 49 games. So kind of a tough ending to the season. Giannis obviously getting hurt in the season or towards the end of the season as well. Pacers having that hot start and then kind of tailing off, but bringing in Spicy P, Pascal Siakam. Towards the end of the season, Therese Halliburton starting to get back right. High-powered offense. They had their little scrum earlier in the season as well, so there's a little bit of smoke and beef there, and I think people kind of predicted that this was gonna be a series that happened. Where do you guys think this series goes? How do you guys think this series goes, and how many games?
It's funny you said that because Halliburton apparently predicted this at All-Star break.
I mean,
They
it
asked him.
was
He
too much
said, "I
smoke.
mean, they right there. We right. We like it to 6. So you know, I mean, we play. We ready for him." I was like, "Damn." He said that back then, but
They whooping
if
their ass this season.
if Giannis is not at least 60% healthy, Pace is about to win this. They gonna run them boys up and down that damn court. They need Giannis like this. If any series, they definitely need him right now. Like for real. And I'm being dead ass. Like it's just their team it's just a weird team. I guess they're constructed weird. I should say. It just there's no real athleticism on that team. I mean, if your best players ain't like bombing and going off to my Dame and Giannis, then they really be losing. But I mean, that's just what I look at. But if Giannis is healthy, if he's playing well, I will give the Bucks the edge. But if he's not, nah, no chance.
How many games?
If Giannis, if Giannis is like limited and or don't play, Pacers and 6. But if he's all the way healthy, Bucks and 5.
Okay. I'm gonna go Bucks and 6. I think it's very. I mean, they're making it seem like it's possible that Giannis might not even make the first game or two. And their defense will definitely be tested. The Bucks defense will definitely be tested by this Pacers team, who can put up points. And I mean, they just scored 150 yesterday. So this is a team that wants to get out and run. And this is going to take a lot of coaching from Glenn. So he's going to be tested early in this playoff run. But I think this is one that they can pull out. I think they split the first 2 games, and then I think the Bucks win like 2 straight, and that pretty much will take it over. But that kind of leads into a 3-1 lead, which
Tough.
You never know how that is with him. So
Tough.
but I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go Bucks and 6. So
I'm also gonna rock with the Bucks. That's a team that just couldn't wait to the playoffs. Like honestly, we can talk about as much as we want to talk about this, and this goes for the Cavs. This really all the teams, the top 4 teams: the Celtics, the Cavs, the Bucks, the Knicks, and then the 76ers. Some people will try to throw the Heat in there. I'm not necessarily doing that because they're just not a good. They just haven't been a good team over the past 2 years, so I'm not gonna give them that respect. No disrespect to them, even though they did get to the finals. Those teams are. It's the only thing that mattered was the playoffs. The Celtics, obviously, it's been talked about so much. They had this great season. If they don't even make the final, or if they don't at least make the finals, people are going to be looking at it as some epic disappointment. The Cavs, if Cass is right and they are a first round exit, I mean, you can. JB Bickerstaff is probably out of there. There's been speculation about Donovan Mitchell. Probably not going anywhere. I mean, guy put that. I mean, the biggest speculation was him going to the Knicks. It's not happening. It's not happening. So unless he goes to, the possibility of him maybe getting traded for LeBron that has been floated, maybe that happens. But aside from that, I don't think Donovan's going anywhere. But JB Bickerstaff, hottest seat in the playoffs right now, in my opinion, outside of Glenn. But I mean, how he wasn't supposed to be here, so
Yeah.
it's hard to be like, oh, he has the hottest seat. The Knicks, as great of a season as they've had, Jalen Brunson is that guy, blase. They could very well be a first round exit, especially if they see the 76ers, and now we're looking like, what the hell happened? What is this? And what are we doing? So I think, there's a lot of immense pressure on those teams in the East. But with that being said, I do think that the Bucks get it in 6 games. I'm going to give the Pacers. I really think that it probably should go 5, but because, like Cass mentioned, the Pacers can score, I do think that we probably get a couple games where those young dudes are just
lighting it up,
can't miss,
yeah.
and the threes just start flying. The Bucks are just like, okay, whatever, we'll get them next game, blah blah blah. So I do think that's a possibility that happens, but I do think the Bucks move on to the next round as well.
I would assume that y'all are saying with a healthy Giannis. What about if he doesn't play?
I think regardless they win.
Yeah, I think I got the Bucks in regardless.
I also saw a very interesting stat. Of the teams that have played, I think the teams that have played the most, or lineups that have played the most minutes in the league, the Bucks actually have like a top 5 starting 5, and it's just all the other mixtures of lineups that's really hurting them. I think that with the restricted, obviously we're going to start seeing 7 guys instead of 9, 10.
Yep.
I think that helps, especially these veteran teams versus these young guys that they're, when you're getting, oh God, I was about to say something crazy. When you're getting, oh God, I don't know how to phrase this. When you're getting Giannis for 40 minutes, I was going to say the full load pause. When you get Giannis and Dame for 40 minutes, I mean, when you're, it's one thing to do it during the regular season, but when these guys are truly, truly locked in, Dame knows, regardless if he's going to be here next year or not, it's a big, all eyes are on Dame. So
it really is. It's opportunity. This is opportunity. Like, this is like, you're still like, of course, this season didn't go how you thought it would go. But this is still way better than what you were in. You know what I mean? And it's a way bigger stakes. And
I know he wanted to go to Miami, but man, shut all that shit up.
Yeah.
Stop it, bro. Like, I get it, maybe lifestyle, people that you want to be around type deal. But like, you play with Giannis, bro. Like, you gotta take advantage. You're that guy, like you say you are. You gotta take advantage.
Yeah, if you built for these moments, this is here. This is it.
Yeah.
So, here we go.
But moving on to the West, 4-5 matchup, one that we're kind of used to, it seems like, at this point. And then another hot hot one brewing in the 3-6 matchup. But to start with the 4-5 matchup, the Clippers versus the Mavericks. Who you guys got and how many games?
This is going 7. They're going 7, but I'm gonna take the Clippers. Then they're gonna pull it out. It's gonna be tough though. It's gonna be one of them back and forth things. It might even be. I think everybody's gonna win each on their own floor. So that's how it's gonna end up going 7. Everybody just gonna keep winning on their floor.
I ain't gonna lie. If this goes 7, the Clippers ain't winning. But yeah, like, you don't want to see Luka in it. I mean, of course, we've seen it before, where Luka has, fallen short in some game 7, but how they're playing, him and Kyrie together, though, you don't want to see both of them in a closeout game 7. It don't matter if they're on the road or at home. So I'm gonna stay away from that game 7 nonsense. But I'm gonna go with the Clippers in 6. I think they pull it out on the road to close it off. It's gonna be a tough series. This will be a tough series, and I think we talked about it last week. The winner of this series, I got up there with the Nuggets. I got them as being, the second best team, in this West. So I think we're going to see Luka have some amazing moments. We're going to see Kyrie have some amazing moments. Hopefully Kawhi is good. That's in doubt. A lot of people are speculating about his knee soreness and knee swelling, and he has a week. They play, he's been out already, but he has an extra week to play. They play on Sunday So hopefully he's in there. But even if he's not, I still think he could be competitive. You know, James Harden, like as much flack as he gets, like he shows up, especially in the first round of playoffs. Like he usually, you know what I mean? He's not just falling off a cliff like as soon as the playoffs hit. It's as it progresses. So we'll see what the game plan Ty Lue has cooking up, but I got Clippers in 6. What about you, Shot? I know you got the Mavs, but how many?
I got the Mavs in 6. They're gonna go up 3-1. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that out there. It's not gonna be a close series in my opinion at all. This team is they're waiting for turmoil. This team, now we got the news about Kawhi, and that's your best. Between him and James Harden, but golly, hell no. Between him and Paul George, those are supposed to be, the guys that are, supposedly guarding Luka all the time. Probably not going to always be them guys, but I think Luka. This is number one in terms of the point guard matchup. Russell, I think that Kyrie and Luka are going to hunt the fuck out of Russell and James Harden. The entire series. And I think that Kyrie's been waiting for his moment to get back into the playoffs to kind of show his who he is, and kind of, there's been a lot of doubts about Kyrie, especially over the past few years. Same way, likewise, on James Harden. But I just think, I said it from the beginning, this team just feels like they've just been impending and waiting for something to go wrong. And I think that I just talked about how the East has a lot of teams, or a bunch of teams that are going to have a bunch of questions. Ty Lue, is he going to be back next year? If I'm a betting man, I'd say no. Is Kawhi going to be? Kawhi's probably going to be back next year. We obviously know he signed his extension or whatever. Paul George, the vibes are not great there with Paul George at all. And he's probably the most important player for the Clippers in terms of their a deep postseason run. And like I said, the vibes have been off with him seemingly from the jump. He's obviously seemingly probably wasn't the one that wanted James Harden the most. In terms of, selfishness, in terms of his stats and stuff like that. James Harden, he has caught a lot of flack for his playoff performance. He's not a bad playoff performer.
He's not
per se. He's a bad big moment performer. And what is this a big moment? Maybe not, but he has kind of built in his little bullshit throughout the past few weeks as well. Or the past few months since the All-Star break. It's just the only person that is Russ, who's really not doing nothing but being, what he wants everybody, or what he feels everybody should feel about him, is that he's just all, great all-around teammate, blase. He's been the one that's has no questions about him aside from his injuries. And no disrespect, he's probably the one that you want to rely on the least. So I gotta go with the Clippers. I gotta go with the Mavericks. I would like to see the Clippers, if they do pull it out. I would like to see them go on a deep run if they are able to. But I just think the Mavericks are rolling. They've been one of the best teams over the past since All-Star break. So I'm rocking with the Mavs. I think Luka and Kyrie do their thing. But moving to it's gonna be tough. Going to the 3-6 matchup, speculation all season has been, if these young teams, this OKC, the Timberwolves, if they do end up with these top couple seeds, how are they going to fare against your LeBrons, your KDs, your Stephs? And now we get it. We get Ant going against his idol, his GOAT in Kevin Durant. Bradley Beal back in the playoffs. Excuse me, the big three in Phoenix versus the Timberwolves and their big three with Jaden McDaniels. They got KD, we got Jaden McDaniels.
We got Jaden
McDaniels. Obviously, Cavs come back. Big series, not only for Ant, not only for Kevin Durant, not only for Bradley Beal, not only for Devin Booker, but the person that's not going to be talked about, as this is a big series, but this is a huge series for the two of them, is those two twin towers in Minnesota between Kat and Rudy Gobert. Who do you guys got, and how many games?
Watching,
it's tough.
Yeah. All right. Watching Phoenix this season, And we talked about it before the year started. I think all of us did. And they didn't correct this problem that they went into the season with. They didn't try to, at least. I mean, maybe they did with Isaiah Thomas, but they don't have a point guard. And too many times we see, and I saw this happen. Of course, this is an outlier game because like a lot of crazy shit did happen. A lot of crazy misses did happen. But the game is the Clippers the other day when it was like 35-4 or whatever after the first quarter, or at one point in the first quarter. Like, them needing a point guard was written all over that. You know what I mean? All over those type of runs where it gets away from you if you're not controlling the pace, if you don't have anybody out there to get your guys in the right spots, getting the ball in their spots, especially a guy like KD and Book. And that's something that's reared his head all season. That's why this team has been very inconsistent. It's like, well, what do you expect when you don't have a true point guard out there, being an extension of the coach? Because now they got Frank Vogel on the hot seat looking bad, which I don't think is,
Frank.
I don't think he's a bad coach, but I just think the team was poorly constructed in his way. That being said, I got the Timberwolves winning this one, and it's going to be tough. Hopefully they stay level-headed. You know, last season, around playoff time, when they got the moniker of being this young team, they did a lot of silly shit. And that's when Jaden McDaniels broke his hand, punching the wall. They Rudy Gobert and Kyle Anderson fighting on the sidelines. All that shit came out at the same time. You know what I mean? That's what it was like, oh, this team is silly. They're not serious. They're not ready for the moment. I think that was a learning experience. And I think hopefully the coaching is right, which I think, if Finch is a good coach. I think they're ready for this moment. What do you say?
Hot seat.
Yeah, honestly. If it goes the other way, definitely. But I do think they pull this one out. And I got the Timberwolves. I got them in 5. I don't really think it'll be that close. I really don't like this Suns team, to be honest with you. You got to respect KD and Book at the end of the day, but I don't like it.
What say you, Chris?
I mean, off the top, you really want to go with the Suns in general, just because what you just said, Cash. I mean, they got KD, they got Book. I mean, they should get this shit done, but you just gotta look at what the hell they've been doing all the season. I know they've been in and out of lineup, but it's no consistency there. Like, at times, their team looks like it just in mud. Like, they just don't know what they're doing. And like you said, maybe they could benefit from actual point guard or whatnot. But I'm gonna give it to the Timberwolves. I think they win this game. I like in 5, but I'm gonna go 6. Man, fact, no, not 5. No, fuck that. I'm going 5. Bro, I don't know, bro. The Suns team, I just don't like it. I just don't like the team.
Why you sign? You got the Suns?
No, I don't.
We'll
see.
We'll see.
No, I was gonna say honestly, the way that y'all feel about the Suns is how I felt about the Clippers. So in terms of how, like, it's just the what we've seen, all those for the past few years, everybody's been, and we've talked about it a little bit in the past, in previous episodes in terms of how I felt personally in terms of how people view Kevin Durant and some of these other athletes because of what LeBron was able to do with these different teams. But we view, everybody expected KD. They went to the Nets. He's gonna win all these championships. He's best player. Blah blah blah. When he came to the Suns, it was the same thing. Kevin Durant is still, they're saying he's the best player, and then all of a sudden things go haywire last year. I mean, not necessarily haywire, but the Clippers, the beat up Clippers, came out really bust ass. And I mean, if you ask me, if they were healthy, it would have been a quick series, in my opinion.
I think so too.
But they end up going to get Bradley Beal, who's, he's kind of had an up and down season, obviously with injuries. He did have a really good game in the last game of the season. Obviously going head to head with Ant, and we saw all that. But the Timberwolves, I mean, we talked about it, how we thought Ant was ready to take that next step and kind of be that guy, or at least fill that role until Wemby takes over, which, I mean, that might be after 10 games next year or some shit. So I do think that the Timberwolves pull it out. They've been having a great season. They're this isn't a team, in my opinion, that can play Rudy off the court. Like in past series or past years where he's been,
That's a good point.
with the Jazz and stuff like that. I don't think they have the ability to play him off the court. In terms of how you mentioned having a point guard, that lack of that also gives me more reason to be like, I don't think they're having, in terms of like on court. Not to say that they're low IQ players or anything like that, but in terms of on court strategy, IQ, stuff like that, I don't think that they like I said, they don't have somebody to play him on the court. So I think we get a couple big cat games, kitty cat, whatever Chris want to call it.
Okay.
But I think that they get him in 6, and we get. I think this is a good series as well. But they end up getting him in 6, and we got a full offseason of questions with, because most people, we'll see how with the rest of the predictions, but I'd venture to think everybody here is probably, as of today, we all could see Kevin Durant, LeBron, Kawhi's of the world, Steph's of the world, all at home before June. So it's going to be a full off season of a lot of star conversations about movement, stuff like that. So I think we get it early on in the West. So
we'll see.
We'll see though. I'm interested. I'm excited. I'm excited to see.
I really am.
So I got 2 questions for y'all before we sign off. My first one is something that you talked about earlier in terms of when we were talking about the Lakers. How do y'all feel about this conversation of, not just particularly the Lakers, but even going back to the 76ers? They're the most dangerous 7 seed ever, and that we should be ducking the 2 seed or the 1 seed. How do y'all feel about all that conversation about that?
Here's my stance on it.
We also saw a lot of teams sell on Sunday, seemingly purposely, like a lot of teams.
I think, and what you mentioned too about like this whole season kind of being about the playoffs, especially in the East, but like literally just around, like, and it's kind of, as a viewer, it's how it felt that these teams are just all these teams are just waiting for the playoffs. I mean, that's how it's always been, of course, but this season felt a little different with it, and I think it highlights more of the importance of matchups in the playoffs. And honestly, like, I get that, you want to be the best team, go through the best, all that, I get that. But basketball is about matchups. NBA is about matchups, and we see it every year. It's the reason why one team can beat the crap out of another team, and that same team can't do nothing with the C team. You know what I mean? So it's a part of strategy. And it's a part of what they sit and do, what the coaches get together and do, in the off season, throughout the season, especially going into the playoffs, about who they feel the best against, who they feel they can exploit the most with their players. So as much as I don't like, as far as like the ducking stuff, like, yeah, you probably not, I mean, you don't want to consider it ducking, but you don't hate like the matchup that you're getting on the outside, on the other side of it. You know what I mean? So I see benefits in it. I'll just leave it like that. If you're talking strategy, if you're talking like that, goes into a game plan as well. It's all connected. I see benefits in trying to get a specific matchup that you want, that you feel would be best. And it's always happened that way. It just feels a little bit more blatant nowadays, but yeah.
I get it. But like for the Lakers instant, if the Nuggets is the best team, you're gonna have to play them anyway.
Maybe.
I mean, you're expecting somebody else to knock them off, but if they good enough to knock them off, why wouldn't they be good enough to knock you off? I get the matchup aspect, but we're talking them specifically. The Nuggets is supposedly the best team in the West, so you're gonna have to play them anyway. Why not get it over with? Because I made it to the conference championship and I still lost to these same people I was trying to duck from the first round. Oh, I made it 2 extra rounds. Now I'm good now. Now my team is better. No, you still played against the same people you was going to play already. I mean, I look at it. I mean, I don't want to compare teams, but I mean, even like that was a conversation for when the Celtics played 2 years ago. People were ducking the Nets. And it's like, oh, nobody want to see the Nets. They was a 7 seed also. They were like, nobody want to see KD, Kyrie, and it's like, well, we're gonna have to play them anyway. Somebody got to play them. Somebody got to beat them, because if y'all saying they that good, they gonna make. Well, why won't it be us? I mean, now that's opposite, because we were actually a 2 seed versus if they were the 2 seed, we were the 7 seed. But
Yeah.
in my opinion, I get the matchup, but you're gonna have to play them anyway. So get it over with.
What side of the fence you on?
That's kind of how I feel. It is what it is. Like, line them up and let's get it. Like, you know, I do get the matchup. Obviously, 100% get the matchup conversation, but I do think that there's, you know, with the conversation about matchups, to go back to that conversation that I said about, you know, the Suns and not being able to play Rudy Gobert off the floor. You also can strategize to play to have the matchup to your strength. Like, not just because, like, your starting five may not match up well with, you know, let's just use Denver's starting five, because they have a great starting five. You know, Clippers have a great starting. I mean, all these teams really have great starting fives. Let's just say that. But you can put together lineups. I mean, and we saw it with the Heat last year. You know, if we want to talk about matchups, the Heat, who did they match up well last year? I mean, let's just be honest. And between coaching and the ability to put certain, you know, when you know, Cody Martin was going off, you know, when Gabe Vincent's going off, Max Strus, putting those correct lineups out there and making them to match to you and match how you play and match what you want to do and stuff like that. So there's ways to get around that and to strategize within game and stuff like that, and lineups and stuff like that. Playing the timeout, playing the in-game adjustments well, out of the timeout play and stuff like that. So I get it. At the end of the day, to go back to the Lakers specifically, I'm looking at it if I'm the Lakers, I've got the ultimate matchup in LeBron James. I got the ultimate matchup in AD. I know they got Jokic over there, but like they still, like, no matter what, they still don't have nobody for LeBron. They still don't have nobody for AD. So, like, we might not have nobody for Jokic either. But we're going to have to make them – we're going to have to – Jamal Murray is going to have to show us that he is the next Kobe, goddamn, how he was playing last year. You know what I'm saying? So, he's going to have to show us. And if you do, then you got to hang your hat on it. And then that's what it is. So,
I get that side for sure. I just think it's a certain amount of luck that we see oftentimes in the playoffs. I mean, we talked about it before, Shad. The road that the Warriors have gone through and a couple of their championship runs have been fairly like, all right,
major injury,
you know
every single round.
So it's like, okay, well, I wouldn't necessarily say they position themselves to get there, but that type of stuff matters when you're looking at it. It's like, okay, let's go through this team. Let's run through this team and let's see what happens. So, I mean, I think it's an aspect of it. Like you said, at the end of the day, you match up with who you match up with. Like, I totally don't think the Lakers should sail tomorrow and lose this game on purpose just to avoid the Nuggets. Because I don't think that's.
I mean, because that'd be interesting. What if they did that? I was about to say, what if they did that and then they play the Kings? And they clearly can't beat the Kings. That's a bad matchup for them.
Exactly. So you don't want to play around like that, but it's a little wrinkle. I'll put it as a wrinkle, you know, if it happens that way. But
and then also the way I see it, I mean, let's say you do get the toughest matchup in the first round, you beat them, but you sustain an injury. Now you're playing maybe teams that are easier, or, you know, maybe you're not as afraid of, whatever the fuck they want to call it, in the next two rounds. Or the next couple rounds, and you're able to get, you know, have XYZ rest, or maybe not be 100% while they get right. You're still able to beat these other teams. So, I mean, it is, at the end of the day, line them up. Line it up. Like, you going to win a championship, you got to win a championship regardless. You got to go through everybody. Like, you're going to go through somebody that's tough. You got to get through adversity. So, but I mean, I seen, like, on Get Up this morning on ESPN.
I saw Greeny say that shit.
Yeah, he was saying, like, sit LeBron, sit AD. Like, what are we talking about?
Like, my boy, what are you saying?
What are we talking about?
Like, you will fuck around and be out the playoffs.
No disrespect to Greeny at all, but, like, let's find a new talking point.
And he was adamant on it too.
He was dead serious. He was dead serious.
Let's create some new narratives here, different narratives and different talking points. like this one. We have every year we have a breakout star in the playoffs. Every year we have, whether it's a young guy, whether it's a guy we didn't expect, like all the Heat guys basically last year. It seems outside of Jimmy, because outside the first round, Jimmy wasn't necessarily excellent. Who is the guy that you guys see having that first round breakout, or just in general playoff breakout this year, or a couple guys?
I'll go one East, one West, and we kind of seen it too at the in-season tournament. Kind of the hype around that. I know I had the Bucks winning this series, but if they were to lose this series, it would be because of one person, and that person would be Halliburton.
Oh.
No.
I've been hating on my boy Pascal.
But no, I think if somehow the Pacers fuck around and win this series, like Tyrese Halliburton will be that breakout star, and it's been building up to that. I mean, we just haven't seen it played throughout the season. They had to run in the in-season tournament, of course. Then they kind of tailed off. They got Pascal Siakam, and they tailed off some more to kind of run under the radar or end up the 6th seed. Okay, but this is the moment, and he's been talking about this a lot. He's been talking about it in multiple interviews, multiple podcasts, a couple times with Podcast P. That he's waiting. He wants that playoff moment. He wants that playoff moment to kind of propel him into the next echelon of players. So I definitely see him being one. And out in the West, it's still Ant. At the same time, like last season, you only got one win over Denver before they got you up out of here. This is your time. This is your moment to kind of propel your team, into that upper echelon of the West and really show that, okay, we're not here to play around. And then you're going against the competition that you're going against in KD and Book. This is your time. Like if you're really that guy, that want to put the team on your back as a 3 seed, you have to win this series. And you have to win it convincingly, honestly. You should not be playing around with these guys. So, yeah, those are my two. I know it's cliche answer is it, but those are the two really breakout stars, in the league. So,
correct.
For the East, I'm gonna go with Banchero. I believe they in a market where a lot of people don't see them a lot. I mean, he played pretty good, damn good this year. So I think with the playoffs and just the heightened elevation of play, I think he gonna show up, and that'd be one of the people that he's actually somebody. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm gonna give it to him, and then on the West, I like what you said earlier, Sha. I'm gonna get to another Duke person, Zion. I mean, we ain't really seen him, man, in no playoffs. So I mean, it'd be a hell of a time for him to come out and and give what the people have always been asking for from him ever since he stepped foot in the league. So I'm gonna say both.
I like those. I like those a lot.
So I actually have a few, but they're all 4 of them are bigs, kind of. And I think when you started off with Paolo, I think you're right there, but I'm going with Franz Wagner.
I was gonna say him. But
I think we see 3 breakouts in that series alone. I think this is a huge Evan Mobley series because of Paolo. I think we really see, kind of like you. Last year we didn't get to see, or because what did Jared Allen say? The lights were too bright. The physicality of the Knicks kind of threw the Cavs off their game. I think that in a way, this is why I said I think this is going to be one of the better series, even though I think it's going to be one of the shorter series. The physicality of the Magic's defense. So Jalen Suggs is another guy that I think kind of has a breakout. I think that first game, like I said, I think the Magic might get. Paolo has a big game. Franz has a big game. We see Jalen Suggs clamping.
He's a pest
to an extent.
He's a pest on that defensive
Donovan
side.
Mitchell, and it takes the Cavs some time to get right. And so I think between the 3 of them, Mobley, Franz, and Jalen Suggs, we kind of see some breaking out between the 3 of them. And then on the West side, I mean, you already hit it on the nail with Zion, so I don't have to go too much into that. But Jalen Williams, with the OKC Thunder, I think that earlier, some people have kind of been comparing him a little bit to like a Paul George ilk. Kind of like that wing player that can both score and defend. I do think that we get a little bit of a breakout from him as well. Obviously he's probably, Shea's gonna dominate a lot of the points, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few 30 balls here from Jalen in the first round. And really throughout the playoffs, depending on, we'll see how everything shakes out. And we'll kind of get into the Thunder, Nuggets, Celtics, and Knicks next week once we're a little more official there.
Yeah.
Fucks with it.
But yeah, man, that brings us to a wrap. What?
Let's talk about the Team USA real quick.
Oh yeah. Team USA. We got the news right before we hopped on. So let me pull up the roster here. Team USA roster just announced today. Actually, and we can get into another breaking news here that I'm opening up my phone. Angel Reese, pick number 7, going to Chicago.
I said 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a fit. That screams like a fit right there.
Yeah.
Man. But and it's official. Caitlin Clark was drafted by the Indiana Fever, as we could have expected. But moving back to the USA basketball team, playing in the Paris Olympics upcoming this year, the 11 out of 12 has been officially announced. It's being finalized, but basically officially announced.
Yeah.
Steph, LeBron, KD, Jason Tatum, Joel, obviously if he stays healthy, Devin Booker,
yeah,
Therese Halliburton, Ant gets to come back with Therese Halliburton as well, Drew Holiday, Bam, and AD.
Ooh,
it's nasty. I ain't gonna lie.
That's nasty.
It is nasty.
We getting Bron and Steph officially.
Steph in his first Olympics.
Steph in his first Olympics. Bron officially playing with Steph. Bron, KD, and Steph officially getting the opportunity playing with each other. And then on top of that, I mean, now we officially have a team with legitimate size, legitimate bigs, not just some, no disrespect to the other guys that have played in the Team USA, because they have played well, done their thing. A lot of people came at Jaren Jackson last year for the lack of rebounds, stuff like that.
Bobby Portis.
Bobby Portis and stuff like that. But officially, depth with the big men, defensive depth, offensive depth. We've got all the big time stars playing. In terms of that last open roster spot, who do you guys think would you prefer? Number one, would you prefer to see like a young guy or a more of a veteran? Because there's going to be one name that's he's probably going to come out of this podcast and talk a little bit about how they didn't invite him, and
he don't need to be invited.
He's valuable on the Draymond Green podcast. But do you think they go with a vet or a young guy? And who are you guys most excited to see moving in this year's USA basketball?
Yeah,
I think they should go with a young. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think they should go with a young guy. I mean, this roster is already solidified. I mean, you don't actually need another player to fill out the roster as far as we need this caliber player, but it would be good to get a young guy in there, give him some experience of Team USA.
You got anybody in mind?
All them boys foreign.
A lot of the young guys are. I'll tell you what, I think it would probably be best to go with a young guy with how this is stacked up, but I think PG has to be on here somewhere. Like Paul George and his talents. I'm actually surprised that he didn't make this initial roster. I don't know what's going on, but I think Paul George should definitely be on this roster somehow. And it might end up that way, because this is a list now, but after this long playoff run, anything could happen. You know how that shit works. But I don't know. At the same time, you're Paul George. You're a vet. You're 32 years old. They ain't put you on an initial one. You might be like, fuck that shit. So that's a possibility too. But yeah, that's as far as who I'm excited to see from this though. Hard not to go with Steph. I want to see Steph in the Olympics. This is something that just like you said before, the tandem with him and Bron. But kind of how Ant kind of inserts himself into this. I think that would be an interesting storyline to see how much Ant kind of like falls to the background or pushes himself up and say, yo, like, yeah, y'all owe, he'll say it too. Y'all owe, like, give me the rock. So that's why I'm excited to see. Devin Booker, I don't really like, don't get me wrong, I like Devin Booker as a player. But I would have Paul George over Devin Booker personally.
I guess I would say for me, I probably would be more excited to see Steph. I mean, for in the Olympics, you don't really get a lot of just shooting. Like a lot of their scores don't be shooting, or even when they shoot, a lot of them their percentages ain't that good. But imagine just like Steph coming in and just shoot lights out. I mean, they ain't never seen it. They ain't. I don't think.
Wreck a lot of games.
They ain't never seen like he's just gonna be shooting that motherfucker. Yeah,
it's gonna be tough for them to guard. They be like, "What the fuck do we do with this?"
What the fuck is this?
Because like it's tough for these NBA, like it's NBA minds to guard. Like it's like, what do we do with him? And Bron talked about it on his podcast too, as far as Steph being the most lethal off the ball weapon. That
it's gonna be interesting to see because you'd have to think instantly the entire offense is kind of going to be revolved around Steph.
Yeah,
I feel like it's.
it makes sense.
And then you have LeBron, where he's the souped up Draymond version, where he's kind of facilitating. And I mean, for your conversation about Ant, I would fully expect Ant to be the leading scorer with Steph right behind him.
I will hope so.
And Ant, Steph, KD, LeBron probably averaging. LeBron and Therese Halliburton about to be in point guard heaven.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys all said young guy. If I also say young guy, and the guy that I would like to see, and this is probably going to be a little bit of a wild card, Chet Holmgren. I feel like Chet, would be. He's kind of the perfect Olympic, number
style.
one Olympic big. Olympic style. And then the guy that I feel like could really benefit a lot from being around Bam, being around Joel, being around AD, and I think they would. I mean, not to put it in the air, but AD and Joel, you got to have some depth there. So if
we hope they make it to Paris. Honestly,
conventional wisdom is going to be. And once again, hold on. Before I go any further, shout out Anthony Davis. What was this? The second most games or the most games that he's played in a season?
He only missed 6, right?
Yeah, 76 games.
So shout out Anthony Davis.
Pockets.
They got hot pocket street clothes. It's crazy. LeBrick, whatever they want to call him.
No question. Chet Holmgren American?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think he would. I mean, if Joel Embiid is qualifying for the American team, Chet's going to qualify there for American team.
I know. Joel just got his U.S.
I didn't think Chet was American. My bad.
I think Chet is though. I'm pretty sure he is.
Look to be sure.
Yeah, I said that shit about Bam last year.
Yeah. That ain't no culture, bro. That nigga Chet was out there putting on do-rags. That nigga is fully American.
Yeah.
So who y'all think the starting lineup gonna be?
Oh, that's a good question. You gotta go Steph, Bron,
and
KD.
KD off the bench.
KD might come off the bench. Hold on. Steph, Bron, and
Jason Tatum.
They gonna start
Tatum.
Joel. And probably Joel.
Tatum and Joel.
And then you have Therese.
And them niggas tall as fuck.
Yeah, that's Lynn.
It's gonna be pressure.
That's Lynn.
Oh my god.
I hope Joel makes it to this games. Like I really hope he does. I have a feeling though he won't. But
if he don't, you still got Bam and AD. Yeah, that's tough.
You need another guy, but yeah.
It's also funny to me, there was a lot of conversation last year about if you remember, I can't even remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but the track star that was like, "Oh, I don't know why they say the best team in the world."
Oh yeah, I know you're talking about.
And goofy niggas ran with this shit and been like, oh, the NBA shouldn't be calling it the best in the world. They don't play all these like the NBA isn't the best league. And then the USA team ends up losing. Now, obviously anything could happen, but after this, I don't ever want to. After this Olympics, I don't ever want to hear that bullshit again. The NBA, when they say they're the champions of the world, they are the champions of the world. It's the best league. It's the best players.
It's
like
the standard.
We don't need to go see LeBron play against the guys that couldn't make it to the NBA. That had to, no disrespect to them at all, but had to go over. Like we don't need to see that. Like we don't. We don't. I'm sorry. Like we didn't need to see Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets go and play fucking I don't know. I can't even think. What's the team that David Blatt came from? We don't need to see that. Like we don't need to see some random team from fucking Turkey playing these guys that they're it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. I'm sorry. Like so after this season, like I said, we don't know what's gonna happen, but we can assume. I don't want to hear that bullshit.
We know it's going. Man, they gonna.
Nah, this roster tough. This roster tough, boy.
It is. But KD, LeBron, Steph. Hey, and you know, there's been speculation. Maybe it's the last time we see LeBron on the basketball court.
Nah,
maybe it's the last time we
way.
see Steph on a basketball court.
It's too much money out there.
Maybe that'll be my new Travis Kelce prediction.
Have your offseason push.
I'm gonna just keep saying it
till you get it right.
Till I get it wrong, right? All right, y'all, man. Appreciate y'all tapping in with us once again, and we'll catch y'all again next week. Draft week. We'll catch y'all. Speak on Sports Podcast. We out.
Yo.
Yes, sir.